battle to liberate Ramadi from the Islamic State has entered a decisive stage. Iraqi forces are pushing towards the city's center with the support of tanks and other heavy weaponry. Baghdad said that it expects to retake the capital of Anbar province within days. But the operation is a complex one, consisting of door-to-door fighting in buildings that have mostly been booby-trapped. And in China, members of China's military police have been deployed around embassies and the popular Sunlitun nightlife area in Beijing. It comes after the U.S. issued a warning of, quote, possible threats against Westerners on or around Christmas Day. I-24 News correspondent Uri Shapira has more.
As the battle against the Islamic State militants continues in the Middle East, a new threat may be evolving in an unexpected area, China. The U.S. Embassy in Beijing issued a special warning to its citizens and travelers in the city. This comes after Beijing police gave a statement saying they had issued a yellow security alert for Christmas and New Year.
We've noticed the relevant report. Please refer to the responsible Chinese government departments for detailed information. Relevant Chinese departments have always attached great importance to social security work and spared no effort in protecting the safety of Chinese citizens and foreign institutes and their staff in China.
According to the site terror monitoring website, the IS is working to recruit new members in China. Recently, the extremist jihadist group published a 4-minute propaganda song in Mandarin to attract Chinese Muslims to jihad. Around 1.8% of China's population is Muslim, not a huge percentage on paper, but when it comes to the most populated country in the world, the numbers come to around 24 million people. One of the Muslim communities in the spotlight is the Uyghurs, based mainly in the Xinjiang province. In recent years, the tension between the Uyghurs and the non-Muslim population increased after a series of deadly attacks in Xinjiang, which saw dozens killed. The roots of this tension goes back way before the rise of the Islamic State and has a lot to do with the Uyghurs' demand for recognition. However, Chinese officials talked about the worrying phenomenon of Chinese Uyghurs who traveled to Syria, trained in terror camps, and returned to China. The horrific terror attack in Thailand last August, in which 20 people were murdered at the Hindu Erwan shrine in Bangkok, put the Chinese Uyghurs in the headlines once more. Thai authorities linked the attack to the ethnic group and subsequently deported more than 100 Uyghurs from the country.
I think the Chinese are waiting for the Thai authorities to give them a full report before pointing the accusing finger at either so-called Uyghur terrorists in Xinjiang or radicalized Uyghurs in the Middle East and other parts of the world.
Officials in Beijing said the situation is under control and they have taken measures to deal with the threats. But as the internal tension continues to grow, coupled with the spread of radical Islam, China, which according to the UN is the top export country in the world, may have difficulties from stopping terrorism inside and outside the country.
And now for more on the story, I'm joined in the studio by senior Middle East analyst Ali Wakil. Good evening, Ali. Well, Ali, how much do we know about the IS's operation in China? Because this is not a region we are historically used to knowing them to focus on, unlike Europe or the US.
Absolutely. I don't think we know much about the operations of the Islamic State. Until now, we did not hear about any operation that the responsibility for it was claimed for the Islamic State. But yes, we know that there are some militants, some Uyghurs and other Muslim Chinese who joined the Islamic State in China, in Syria, and in Iraq. They passed to the Middle East via the borders between China, Pakistan, China, and Afghanistan, which is very tough, but still they succeeded to pass to these countries in their journey to the Middle East to join Syria and Iraq. And there, like it is happening with the militants coming from Europe, the Islamic State, yes, do hope that they will be the pioneers in bringing the Islamic State to the conscience, to the knowledge, and also to the operative of the radical Muslims that live in this far west part of China. But Ayman, if you go on YouTube, if you go on the social media in the Arab and in the Muslim world, there are very often stories about Chinese, Buddhists, and other who torture, who persecute the Muslims in China, and this is turning for the Islamic State and other jihadist group as a reason to try to act in this region.
So China has become a threat for Islamic extremism, like some parts of Europe?
China will become a threat. For the moment, the priorities of the Islamic State is to deal and to act and to operate in regions that they are familiar for them. It is true that the Muslims who live in China are bigger in number than all the Muslims living in Europe, but still it is not at the priority of the Islamic State. The priority of the Islamic State is to consolidate its power that we know is facing tough moments right now in the land of the Caliphate in Iraq and in Syria, to recruit people that who will come to the Middle East, and just afterwards they will be thinking about far stations, including China.
Well, Ali Waked, thank you very much for clearing up this extremely complex story for us. Thank you. Our next story, a Thai court sentenced 2 migrant workers from Myanmar to death today over the 2014 murders of 2 young British tourists. Ezra Taylor has more on the controversial case.
In a case which has been criticised as flawed, Zaw Lin and Wei Piao, both from Myanmar, have been sentenced in Thailand to death on Thursday for the murders of 2 British tourists, Hannah Witheridge and David Miller. The battered bodies of the 2 backpackers were found on a beach on the island of Koh Tao in September 2014. Police understood Witheridge had been raped and bludgeoned to death. Miller also received blows to his head. The verdict and sentence follow an investigation and trial that triggered allegations of police incompetence. Nonetheless, one victim's family said justice had been served.
We believe that the result today represents justice for David and Hannah.
But the coordinator of Myanmar's Workers' Rights Network disputes the decision.
We believe that the evidence presented at court was full of holes, was incompetently collected and incompetently analysed and presented to the court. So we disagree with the verdict, and the lawyers will be preparing an immediate appeal.
Thailand's best-known forensic scientist also testified at the trial that the crime scene had been poorly managed and evidence improperly collected, meaning for now some will still have their doubts on the verdict.